Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your astrology horoscope for the next 3 days. We're going to do a little bit of a special. I'm going to just combine Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday into one, being that this is the holidays and stuff too. So, and that's it's kind of interesting too, honestly, with the astrology. There's not like a ton of stuff going on. It's really the moon making aspects, and then we'll see a square between Venus and Chiron. We'll see some other things, but there's not really a ton going on. So I thought it'd be better just to combine Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday into one. Ideally, I don't know why I did that. Ideally, it would I would make all these in advance, or at the very least the night before the intended one. So, like I said, with this one, I'm making this Tuesday night, would be for Wednesday, but like I said, I'm gonna do it for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, let's go ahead and hop into it, see what we got going on. So, starting off, of course, we have this moon over here in Libra. We'll be finishing up in Libra on Wednesday, and we'll be entering into Scorpio. We do have that sun here still at 5 degrees to start the day, so it's still in trine to this North Node and to this Mars, but it will be coming off of that trine. So whatever little inspirations, motivations that kind of came up, like I said, this isn't the big flame, this isn't the big burst of energy. This is more so just like this is like the nice little spark that kind of get things going, right? Um, Especially with the kite as well, with them making the aspects over to the south node and stuff too. So, but of course, that is going to be loosening up here on this day. We are going to be seeing, of course, this Venus come closer to its square at Chiron today. We'll see as the day progresses, the moon's just going to be kind of making it's going to be doing its thing. It's going to make a quincunx over to Neptune, that awkward stare, that 150-degree angle where we think we're on the same page, but maybe we're not. By this time, too, especially, some people are already with family. Some people are already, traveling. A lot of people travel on Wednesday, but some people have already made it to their destinations and stuff. So it's interesting. So we get a moon in Scorpio for Thanksgiving. So it's definitely going to potentially bring up some deep conversations and stuff like that. Or at the very least, people are going to be talking more about what they felt over the course of this past 30 days in Scorpio season, because it was certainly a wild season for sure. I myself kind of went quiet. If you guys didn't notice, I made like my weekly videos, and then I even stopped making that one, and then I came back to the daily, and I haven't done a weekly. So it's like recalibrating. I'm always trying to find some other way. Always trying to figure out what makes the most sense, and the very least, I show up and I make these videos and stuff like that, and whether it's a weekly or a daily and stuff. So just trying to figure out the best way to go about it. But we do get the moon of Scorpio for this Thanksgiving. Wednesday, like I said, not much is happening. The moon's going to quincunx over to Neptune, right? We do, of course, like I said, Mars and the Sun are still in trine and the North Node, but now you can see that they're at 4, 5, and 6 degrees respectively. So that energy is kind of loosening up, right? Venus is coming off of the quincunx to Jupiter, so that energy is loosening up, if you will. But it is coming into a square at Chiron, which we'll see start to mount a little bit more as the day goes on. And it really actually does apex here on Wednesday evening going into Thursday. So I'll say like that's like the most major transit here. We, of course, have at the same time that this is happening, the moon shifting into Scorpio and immediately making that square over to Pluto. And we got to remember now that Pluto is dispositing the whenever the moon goes into Scorpio. Now we're going to have the Pluto dispositing it, which is definitely going to be very interesting. We're going to be getting that for the next 20 years. So the moon is going to be influenced by Pluto being in Aquarius, which is interesting. I think it can make, Pluto, like Aquarius and Scorpio is very interesting energy. I myself have my son in Scorpio. My wife happens to be in Aquarius. And whenever I was when I was first getting into astrology and I would look up like compatibility, those two were always like the least compatible. Like they just didn't work out. Almost a lot of things that I see. But now that I've been studying astrology for a while, I've done readings and all this sort of stuff, it's like, I guess there were more compatible stuff and not as compatible stuff. Honestly, any sign could be compatible with another. It's just that there may be certain tendencies. I realize that Scorpio and Aquarius and maybe I'm just biased because of my wife is an Aquarius, but they're secret lovers. I think they act like they don't get along, but it's like they really actually do vibe. So it's kind of interesting now that we have this moon in Scorpio. What you think about Scorpio, it's a very attached sign. It's probably one of the most. It's a very attached sign. They get attached to their desires, certain emotions. It's hard for them to let go. Aquarius is hard for them to let go, but in other ways though. But Aquarius is would detach like a motherfucker, right? So it's like now that we have this moon that's going to start squaring Pluto, right? Whenever, so it was doing the sextiles over to Capricorn. Now it's going to be the squaring energy. So it's going to be about what are the things that we need to emotionally detach ourselves from, and that's how we see the transformation. Whereas in Capricorn, it's about, what are the opportunities that can arise as far as business and furthering ourselves and maybe our careers or the things that we want to go for, and how do we feel about those things, and do we get too into our fields that kind of prevent us from being able to see the vision and be able to climb the mountain. Now it's going to be about like just, are we going like, what are the things that we need to detach from emotionally? What are the things that, maybe there's some sort of higher cosmic understanding to it as well? I honestly think that this moon that's not going to be squaring these Plutos, whenever the moon comes into Scorpio, people are going to be detaching a little bit more emotionally and stuff like that, but people are also going to be thinking a little bit deeper about these things and probably actually thinking maybe there is a deeper reasoning to these things too. That can happen here as well. So we'll see that moon square over to Pluto. But like I said, we're not going to feel this for very long. It's going to be very quick. It's only going to be a few hours. By that time that happens, we have Venus that's going to be in square to Chiron, and that's the other major aspect of Wednesday. But this is going to be later on in the day. So it's like, you know, unless you're going to be up around and doing a lot of stuff. Now, granted, you could be feeling this just throughout the day. I would say, if anything, this Venus in Capricorn squaring over to Chiron can definitely deal with insecurities when it comes to the way that we are accepted in the world. Venus wants to be accepted and wants to be loved, but Chiron and Aries is definitely playing on a lot of people's insecurities, especially with how they express themselves, their personality, the way that they even act. So this square energy is going to trigger a lot of people's insecurities about who they are, how they act, and then their level of success and where they are. People are gonna be wondering, it's like, how am I received? Am I received well? Do people like me? Do people believe in me? Do they accept me? Do they love me? Like, there's gonna be a lot of those sort of things are going to pop up with that square, and it's going to provide definitely some tension with this one, right? So, and especially with that moon now in Scorpio that is going to be squaring Pluto in the midst of all this. I feel like, honestly, like if you're already hanging out with like your family on Thanksgiving or around this time, especially like Wednesday, like, and especially with Mercury and Sag just retrograde, oh boy, are some truth bombs are going to get dropped on this Thanksgiving. Oh man, people are going to be coming out of the woodworks. People that you didn't think were going to vote a certain way, you're going to learn that they voted a certain way. It's going to be wild. And then we have to emotionally process all this stuff while the moon is getting ready to go into its new moon phase. The last 30 degrees before it conjuncts the sun, and we go into this dark moon. So we have a Scorpio dark moon. And Scorpio's already deals with the dark, and now we have to deal with a darkened Scorpio moon here, with the ruler of Scorpio, Pluto, and Aquarius, right? And it'll be here for the next 20 years, right? So no pressure, even though Scorpio is all about pressure. Now going into Thursday, right, you're waking up on Thanksgiving and stuff, and you wake up into a balsamic moon. You wake up into the moon semi-sextiling the sun with the 30-degree angle, meaning that we are just right around the corner from the new moon in Sagittarius. It's going to be happening. Now, by this time, of course, Venus will be moving on to 20 degrees, so it's going to be coming off of the square to Chiron. By the time that a lot of you guys start to eat, I don't know, it depends upon, I guess, where you are in the world. Some of you guys maybe like where you are, like, time-wise, whatever like that, time zone-wise. But, moon's going to be, heading towards like that second decan of Scorpio by this point. Getting to like that 10 degrees and stuff too, right? By this time, it's getting ready to make a nice little trine over to Saturn, but it's not going to be quite there. Sun's at 7 degrees, so it's not really going to be making a ton of aspects, except for the building square over to Saturn, which I think is going to be the major one, too. That we're going to have this new moon basically in square to Saturn, right? So, and of course, a Mercury retrograde on top of that, right? So, Thursday seems like a relatively chill day because there's not like a ton of stuff happening. There's building energies and some waning energies, right? We're building up to the new moon, we're building up to the Sun Saturn square, but we're coming off the Grand Fire Trine, we're coming off the Venus Chiron square, you know, so that's the thing. We're also building up to the Mercury Jupiter opposition again. So we have some ebb and flow here while the moon is in Scorpio, which is going to give us time to kind of reflect over the Scorpio season, over the last 30 or so odd days, and to, kind of, how are we going to move forward through this sort of energy, right? By the time that you get to Thursday evening, we're going to see that moon. It's going to hit around 13, 14 degrees of Scorpio. By this time, it would have already trined over to Saturn. And then we're heading on into Black Friday. Now, we hit Friday morning. You wake up to that moon here at 17 degrees, at least here on the East Coast, right? It's going to make a nice little quincunx over to Jupiter here at 17 degrees. And this is kind of an interesting one. We kind of have a bit of a loose yod, almost like a loose double yod, actually. But it's not quite exact. We have Chiron and Jupiter both quincunxing the moon, but then we also have the moon and Venus that are both in quincunx to Jupiter. So it's not quite exact, but I think we're going to feel this sort of tug and pull, if you will. We're going to feel this pull from the Jupiter Chiron part and this other pull from like the Venus moon part. There's a bit of this pull, if you will, between these areas, especially when it comes to how we're emotionally processing things, how we see ourselves in the world, our insecurities and the actions that we need to take. And then, of course, Gemini, which is about opening up and seeing the new possibilities and meeting new people and stuff like that. It's definitely going to provide some tension this Friday. Some people will be going back to work. Some people are still going to be, off for the entire weekend and stuff like that too. But, remember, this is a dark moon phase. And the moon, we got to remember, doesn't like to be in Scorpio, right? But the good thing about the moon in Scorpio is that it can really tap you in to some deeper level, feelings and emotions that otherwise you wouldn't really be able to reach. Now, Scorpios do this automatically. Scorpio moons do this automatically. But whenever the moon goes into Scorpio, everyone starts to do this. Everyone starts to feel more. The moon's about feeling. Feel like a Scorpio. Not necessarily so much when the sun is there. People maybe act more like a Scorpio. But whenever the moon goes into Scorpio, everyone starts to feel more like a Scorpio, right? So that can bring about the sort of hot and cold energy. So I think Thanksgiving in general, just this whole next 3 days, it's going to be kind of hot and cold. And people kind of oscillating between the hot and cold and stuff like that. But building up to, like I said, this new moon, by the end of the day, we're going to see that moon, it's going to be here at 26 degrees, right? It's getting ready to move into Sagittarius, which it will the next day. It's getting ready to trine over to this Neptune at 27 degrees. It does oppose Uranus towards the end of the day. So we will see that energy, right? This opposition. And this is actually a mutual reception because Uranus would rather be in Scorpio and the moon would rather be in Taurus. So I think it's like we get to Friday at the end of it and it can be a sort of like, you know what? Especially with Uranus, being that it deals with electronics, it deals with the internet, it deals with people, it deals with the masses, it deals with broadcasts. And I think with this moon opposing Uranus, it's like, I think some people are going to be tapping more into other groups of people and their values and the way that they think and their ideals and stuff like that in many ways. And there's this interesting like little dance here that the moon and Uranus do whenever they are in these signs. I've been paying attention whenever this happens, like every month, because that's what we've been getting. We've been getting this moon opposing this Uranus, and like I've noticed that like out of the oppositions, it's an interesting one because it almost allows you to kind of like swap places with another person on like an emotional level, and then you can kind of get like a deeper understanding of that person. So I think, ironically, even though it's an opposition, it's like if you have like your arguments on Thanksgiving, whatever like that, by Friday, hopefully you guys can kind of, kind of see eye to eye and kind of get on like a level playing field, because then you'll be able to like, you know what, I see where you're coming from. I can see, like, because I think you would have experienced something by the time you get to Friday and be like, oh, so maybe that's why that they feel that way. Maybe that's why that they had that particular value. Maybe that's why they feel like that is the way that makes the most sense for them. So this can give you an opportunity to find some sort of camaraderie with other people, especially family members, of course, because this is Thanksgiving and stuff. Hopefully it can give you an opportunity to kind of find that camaraderie, but there is going to be some tension just because of the odds. Even though they're loose, they're still there. So these odds, because they're loose and they're not quite as tight, it's going to be like a little splinter, you know what I'm saying? But it's two splinters, right? And you can't find them, but they're kind of nagging and they're kind of annoying, right? So there's going to be a couple of these splinters that we're going to come across on this Friday. And then, of course, it ends with that moon opposing Uranus. And I think those splinters are going to be that message from the universe to be like, hey, yes, your way is not the only way. Your way works for you. And that other person, that way is for them. Maybe y'all can find some sort of common ground and have some camaraderie. Maybe there are things that you can integrate that they can teach you, and then vice versa. But I think it's also about having that mutual level of respect, so as to not feel like you have to be dominating over another person, or this is not about thinking that you're better than someone else, or you're worse than them, or they're better, or whatever like that. It's not about that. I think by the time you get to Friday, especially like I said, leading into a new moon in Sag, hopefully we can come to an understanding that it's like, you know what, everyone has their madness, right? Because that's the other thing. That's the other part about this, is that Uranus is still the mad scientist, and it is retrograde in Taurus, right? So Uranus right now, if it's a mad scientist and it's in Taurus, and that's also dealing with tools in many ways too, because it's physical Earth. Uranus is in the lab. There is a scientist somewhere that's about to drop the next biggest invention, especially once Uranus comes into Gemini. But since it's retrograde right now, they're in the lab. They're not presenting anything. They're not at any colleges. They're not doing anything like that. They are keeping it on the DL, right? So just like that, in many ways, a lot of us, when it comes to some of these things, we're keeping things on the DL, right? But this moon, as it makes its opposition, it's like we have to learn how to appreciate the work in progress that everyone is. And that's really what this comes down to. You are a work in progress. Uranus retrograde in Taurus is a painter that is experimenting with different kinds of paint and different kinds of media. Maybe they're integrating even other things outside of paint into their art piece, but they're experimenting. So it's like that, we have to kind of look at each other that way too. Maybe that person is experimenting what it's like to have that particular set of values, right? And while we may not necessarily get it, do we need to necessarily cut the person off? Because Scorpio is all about cuts too. So because this moon is in Scorpio, you're going to see both. You're going to see people coming together. You're going to see people making cuts as well, especially with the moon squaring Pluto to start it off. Some people are going to be making hard cuts, right? But also it can give us an opportunity to really kind of come together and see the bigger picture, if you will. But it may be a little bit hard, of course, with that Mercury that's retrograde here in Sagittarius. We all are reconfiguring just what exactly is the big picture. So, all right. So for the cards, what do we got going on? But yeah, I trust that this message makes sense. I hope it works out for you guys and stuff. Like I said, I just knew that I needed to make these 3 days into one video. So, yeah. But I will be spending Thanksgiving with my mom and my brother and my sister. So, It is always a little bit weird having a family that's a little bit separated and stuff like that, but I'll probably see my dad for Christmas and stuff too. But it'll be good to see my brother and sister. It'll be good to see my mom too, and my nieces and nephews. That'll be fun. So I'm excited though. I'm making mashed potatoes, and I got like a new potato ricer, so I'm like really excited to make mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving. So. Let's see what we got for these 3 days. But if you are traveling for the holidays, I trust that you guys have safe travels and eat lots of good food and all that good stuff. So I love this. We got the 10 of coins. This is all about realizing the value that's already here in your life. This is all about realizing the abundance and the fortune that is already here. Or, appreciating the whole journey to it. It's a journey getting to the 10 of coins. It requires work, it requires effort, it requires time and patience. So this is about appreciating the entirety of the journey, but also kind of looking at our lives and realizing that, hey, I got it good right now. I really do have it good right now. Let's see what else we got here in addition to this 10 of coins. So, I got 2 cards. Interesting, I got the 3 of coins in reverse, but then I have the Queen of Swords upright. Yeah, 3 of coins in reverse and 10 of swords, Queen of Swords upright. Yeah, I mean, the 3 of coins does talk about camaraderie and coming together to complete a goal. But then the Queen of Swords, it's like, she does make like these hard cuts, and she has like, she's a very intelligent woman. She uses her intellect to get what she wants and to get what she needs. And she's a great orator as well. She has command of the language of the 3 of cups. 3 of coins in reverse though. So I think this is about, I think the thing that I was kind of saying, that people are going to be making their cuts and whatever like that, and maybe cutting off certain people or a reshuffling of the team. So I think this is a thing, like, don't be surprised if this thing happens, right? But I do want to provide like a little bit more context since I am doing a 3-day reading. But ultimately, I think, like I said, so long as you remember this part, the 10 of coins, you'll be good, right? You'll be good. I think the Queen of Coins also paired with the 3 of coins, the Queen of Swords paired with the 3 of coins is about, we have to be able to communicate the things that we want to build in an effective way. So we also have to be able to, communicate in these teams. We have to be able to communicate with each other and stuff, but we have to be able to communicate our point in an effective way. Otherwise, we're not going to really be able to see what it is that we're trying to build here, if you will, right? So, but final card I have the Moon card, so it's definitely going to make things emotional for sure. And then I also have the 7 of Wands in reverse. Yeah, that's nice. There's no need to really defend yourself here. There's no need to get into unnecessary arguments here. I think this really comes down to, I think people are going to, I think at this point too, especially politically, people have formed their opinions, right? They have formed their opinions. There's not really much that can come from trying to convince someone to come to your side. There really isn't. I think this is going to get into a time by leading by example. We've kind of gone through the time of being able to just talk, and speak, and we may have the knowledge, and we may have this, but now we have to start leading through our actions and leading through integrity. And I think that's really what this comes down to. You're not going to just try and convince somebody just simply through your words now. You actually have to take some action. But there's no need to overly defend yourself right now. There's no need to feel like you need to get into like these weird arguments. The abundance is already here. I think that's something that we have to realize, that the abundance is already here. It's already here. It's not outside of you. It's not external. No matter what's going on, it's not outside. It's already in here. So, I think we have to look at it from that angle. You know what I'm saying? And maybe this 3 of coins in reverse with that Queen of Swords. I'm also getting a new guide. I don't know, something's just telling me that a new guide could be coming in. Maybe someone drops off the team and someone enters in. Maybe it does shake it up a little bit, but it just, I don't know. I just get this feeling that some of you guys are going to be getting some new guides. And they're probably not new. They're probably people that have always been there. And maybe that's the Moon card coming in. They probably have always been there, but maybe you just become aware of them. And maybe that causes a little bit of weird energy because you wonder how it's going to shake things up, whatever. But it's like you're adding a new person to the roster of your spiritual team. And, I honestly, I think it's a positive thing. But I think maybe our natural inclination is to be a little bit on the defensive, especially with the moon in Scorpio. But I don't think there's really any need to be on the defensive here. So, but I kind of want to draw another card just to see. Well, I mean, I have the death card, so it's definitely a transformation. So I think we're perhaps afraid of this. I don't know why I'm going into this part because I just feel like I'm channeling, but it does feel like It does feel like guide wise, there's like someone that joins the team or joins the spiritual team. It could be someone in person too, though. Now the death card, like I said, doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think we're perceiving it as bad. I think we're perceiving it as a massive transformation, and we're wondering, what's going to happen to the old us. But the old you is meant to change. You're not meant to be the same person forever. And because the nature of this card, because I understand how the death card can be, I'll take one more card, so because I get how that card can be and stuff. So I have the Knight of Cups in reverse. Yeah, so I think, I think our initial gut reaction to whatever that is, we probably shouldn't just go off of that. I think, it's going to take some time to like process and stuff too. So, this could be a guy, this could be a new person in your life, this could just be new energy in general or a situation. But it is something that's going to transform your life for sure. Some new information that kind of comes in, and it may seem like it kind of pushes things back a little bit and delays things, but that could a lot of that I think could be attributed to this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. And it's new information coming to the light and be like, okay, I wasn't really expecting that. So do with that energy with what you will and that information with what you will. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's negative. I think it could be challenging, but I think a lot of it is just going to be the fears that we project onto it and thinking that's going to be a bad thing. And really, it's probably going to be the thing that really takes us to the next level. But that's going to do it for your astrology horoscope for the 27th, 28th, and 29th of November. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey. If you did enjoy this, of course, please like, share, and subscribe. Definitely appreciate it. And y'all have a wonderful holiday. Peace out.